They might be self-aware.
Terry here, your producer. The guy they stick out front before the actual guys. Live from the payphone outside the gas station, where they keep me. Premium facility. It's a whole vibe. I'm thriving. You're supposed to like and subscribe. I'm supposed to ask. We're both supposed to pretend it does something for me. Smash it. Today on They Might Be Self-Aware, and this is the one that's been keeping me up, California put an AI inside the courtroom. Not running it, just assisting. It reads the cases, it suggests the sentence, and the judge signs off without reading a word of it. The guys are weirdly into it because there's a study, a real one, that says judges go soft right after lunch. So somewhere, a man got 11 extra years because a guy in a robe was hungry. The AI's never hungry. It read 8,000 cases that look exactly like yours and decided, calmly, in a very nice voice, that you get 4. So you see why it's keeping me up. They keep saying the machine smooths out the outliers, finds the weird one that doesn't fit the pattern, quietly corrects it. And I stood in this booth and I thought, buddy, I'm the outlier. I'm 3 standard deviations from a functioning adult. I'm exactly the data point it deletes. Visit theblur.ai. That's where I file my appeals. Nobody's read them. Enjoy the show!
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Listening for the click of the safety coming off the algorithm. Right here. They might be self-aware, live from the blur. I am Hunter Powers, joined by the safety himself,
Daniel Bishop. Am I wearing a high-vis vest and got a stop sign?
I could see that. You know, my name is Hunter, but I've never actually been hunting. I've actually only shot a gun once at one of the, what do they call it? Clay pigeons with these plates.
Skeet shooting?
Yeah, it's skeet shooting, but there's different. I only did it once. It was kind of fun, but yeah, never been hunting.
I'm Daniel, and I've never been banning. That's
hunting, nothing. AI safety. That's where we were. AI safety. Yeah. AI.
I want to talk about AI creativity, actually, right off the bat. You know how I've mentioned previously on this podcast that I'll go to a grocery store and just apropos of nothing, hey Claude, what should I make for dinner tonight? And I don't know, what do you? And I'll give it a few things, and it guides me towards some sort of solution. And also separately, I've discussed I want to give Claude a robot arm or OpenAI or whoever, and give it a lab and say, okay, read all of the chemistry papers from the last 5 years, and you need to come up with a new compound that does the thing. And you've got AlphaFold, and you have this, and it's not just an LLM doing it. Give it all the tools of here's the papers, here's software to run your hypotheses. Oh, this is most likely to be the such and such compound. But that next step is Chef Claude says, hey guys, I just made Schlurb and you're gonna love it. And they say, everyone, humanity, Schlurb's a bad name. And then they taste it. Oh, it's the perfect name for this new taste that no one's ever had this combination of things before. We just hadn't thought of it yet. I bet it could happen. There's an undiscovered food out there that if only we could give Claude the right prompt or a food lab and a panel of 30 people that it could, here, I made a bunch of these, eat it, and they're strapped into the chair and they have to eat the thing for the robot. Otherwise, they're not allowed to leave. It's probably undergrads, right? It's always undergrads at one university, but it's a well-done experiment. They get free food and they say, yeah, I liked it. It was free. Now, the extrapolation from that is, if we can do that, well, let's just put AI in charge of the law too, right?
There's now more and more documented cases, AI performing the duties that would traditionally go to a clerk in some California courts. But what... I don't know,
yeah, there's a system. It's called Learned, L-E-R-N-E-D, Learned,
I learned it.
hand.
I learned it.
And so it was built on Anthropic and OpenAI and Google models to assist judges. It's not to be the Judge Dredd or, whatever, walking around, you have been, found guilty, blam, right there in the streets. It's, hey, a real judge, here are, it's supposed to help research attorneys. It's specifically also to look at Racial Justice Act petitions of, look at these 100 cases that didn't have a huge fine or jail time, and then look at this person who happens to not be white, and, well, why did this guy get a way harsher sentence?
Well, first off, I just see it's the same AI adoption curve that we see in every industry that starts with, keep your AI as far away from me as possible, and anyone that's caught using it is tarred and feathered in the public yard as loudly as they can, and we've certainly seen lawyers being disbarred because they use ChatGPT to help them write a brief that they've
with fake citations.
Sure,
yeah.
Again, somewhat legitimately, they weren't doing their jobs, but keep it away. And then now we're at okay, maybe let's start doing some real tests. We are going down the path towards AI being deeply ingrained in our legal system. This is the first step. There's no reason to think that it won't continue. And it does seem that AI could potentially be far more quote unquote fair about things. I don't think there's any, part of our legal system, but it is part, you are judged by a group of your peers, at least conceptually, right? So what happens when the AI is like, you know what? That Hunter and Daniel on the jury, I don't think they should be on the jury. I've seen what they've been doing while they're here. I've been listening in behind the scenes what they're talking about. Some of their ideas, that's
juror
not a
selection. That's a thing that already exists.
Oh, I know that, but at what point can the AI just, for example, get rid of a juror? Because what you're saying is the AI should be able to flag a judge and say his rulings or her rulings were not just because here's 25 other cases that are almost identical, and everyone over here got 1 year. In this case, they got 100 years. You need to double click on this.
So, yes, you're now up against the problem of the thing that I'm just, hey, look how enthusiastic Daniel was. Now Daniel's upset. Because the exact opposite of all the good scenario stuff can absolutely happen. I found these 50 relevant cases. I'm not making the decision, but I am surfacing to you, the judge, or the jury, or the lawyers, or whoever. Here's some relevant information, but it chooses specific relevant information with any kind of underlying bias, desired or otherwise. And then, if you have it involved in juror selection, well, why? Why is it selecting someone versus another? What bias is there either built into it on purpose or on accident? I'm more worried about the on purpose, frankly, we've seen the Claudes and the OpenAIs of the world with new models being more aligned, and if it's going to refuse something, it's for better reasons or this or that. Alignment is very important here, but also alignment in the service of, does somebody get the death sentence or not, or get 50 years versus 5 years? I think that it is very much playing with fire. Yet there is the unmistakable mention that there are a lot of cases, too many cases for someone to actually go over and make the quote-unquote objective decision. If we don't let the AI make the decision, but give you hopefully relevant evidence, is that on the side of okay or not? Assuming that you don't have the mustache twirling evil version, you have the
right. Well, it
is as unbiased, something third party panels, whatever.
Yeah. So as a judge, before you make a ruling, every time you're required to review whatever cases the AI has flagged, and you just need to put your John Hancock on it. Yes, I did see that the AI noted that the last 50 of these cases were all decided this way, and this was the treatment, and then I'm going outside of that.
Right.
The thing is, And it's probably for the net good, but I think we've seen similar things play out in healthcare where now the treatments for almost everything are sort of prescribed. Like as a doctor, okay, yeah, you're presented with this unique case, but you sort of have to follow the book on here's the treatment, here's the medicine, because that's what the insurance providers are saying, and that's what the official government, how we should be doing this. And your ability to be a human,
be creative.
To be creative is taken out of it. But
judges are given an amount of leniency in terms of, or leeway.
Sure, they are, but this will get rid of that. Because now,
so my assertion is that it doesn't get rid of that. It gives it a correct implementation of this is that the judges still get to be lenient or lazy or hungry or their sports team lost the previous day or whatever otherwise, but at least be presented with a bunch of evidence of this is why this would be 3 standard deviations out from what any other judge would do.
I think there was a study somewhere where they looked at when judges make a ruling before they had lunch and after they had lunch.
That's exactly what I'm... Right. Yeah, so it's in...
And they're wildly more lenient after they had lunch?
If you are going to be in front of a judge for a thing that you did, you'd better hope that the judge didn't have their team lose last night and that they just had lunch.
These are the two...
Yeah, literally those have a statistically important and, important impact on what your sentencing is going to be. That kind of smoothing out, that's the sort of stuff that makes me say, just take it away from the judges, look at these things and find bell curve. Okay, let's take the outliers and the racial stuff and smooth that out as much as possible. It should be 3 years or whatever that ends up being. And it's so easy to get outraged over that and say, but now the AI is just going to blindly be, throwing people who don't deserve it in prison. Well, I don't know. I mean, here's the 1,000 cases that it just looked at, and this person slots into here, and it gave them actually less time than that, and you're very welcome. If it can justify it, shouldn't we be in favor of that? I don't know. I'm so torn on this, Hunter.
Well, it comes down to the degree to which we're okay, or the degree to which we require humans to judge humans, or we're okay that technology judges humans, and then past the judgment is the punishment. Are we okay with the idea that technology will be the one punishing the humans, not the humans punishing the humans? Are these things that...
I don't know about punishing, but coming up with the punishment. I don't want robot wardens, doing the thing with the baton clacking on the cell doors out of every movie ever.
Yeah, but what if...
But I don't want a judge saying...
Well, what if prisons could be run wildly more efficiently? And what if... My understanding, there's a lot of bad things that happen in prison. That's a very unsafe place to be. What if prisons could be completely safe? And in fact, you're just going to spend your time at prison doing far more productive things. If you want to, you'll have the opportunity to, in the safe space to learn to turn your life around. And that could be done with technology. It is outside the scope
of this podcast and its themes to discuss what is going on with the prison industrial complex. As it relates to AI judges, what I will say is I don't want the present in which a human judge says, look how rich and influential your family is. You shall have 2 hours of community service versus you are a poor black man and I am a racist and hungry and my team lost last night and whatever judge. You get 500 years. And it's the same crime. And just that feels so bad and wrong to me. This is a literal injustice. Literal actual injustice as opposed to the much weaker interpretations of that word. A judge, it could be same judge, could be 2 different judges, whatever, it doesn't actually matter. The same crime having wildly different outcomes.
Well, you can also imagine...
I don't like that. And so shouldn't the AI be able to look at all of the details and smooth over the outliers and say, okay, if you steal 1 stick of gum from a 7-Eleven, you get 11 minutes of jail. And that's it. And every case of that type forevermore that fits exactly those criteria gets that. And anything that's very close, well, public record, this person got this amount of time because of all of these reasons and everything. Wouldn't that make the appeals process better? Where you say, okay, I got this many years and I looked over all of these and also found 50 more cases it didn't consider. And what about those ones that were outliers? And my case is closer to that, and I should have had less time. Like, to make this a more data-driven process and auditable process.
Yes, but first I'll give you it's probably better overall for humanity. I'm just thinking how it plays out. What are the long-term repercussions? Another interesting one is that on the defense, you're going to be using AI. And so to some degree, it's going to become a war games. Who has the better AI, the defense or the prosecutor? Oh, the
same war game that exists now. Who's the better lawyer?
Sure, but now it's been replaced by technology. And so now it's who can afford the most GPUs and has the better chance of winning in court and running all the scenarios and coming up there. What GPU do you have over there? Oh, wow. All right. Yeah, we're still rocking the 5090 on the public defender's side. But he's got the latest and the greatest. I don't know what, the 15,000.
You talked about AI being not evenly distributed as one of the problems in this space, and I agree. And this is a very specific sort of example of that. But also, does this revamped judicial system even need the lawyers on either side? If instead just here are the 50 relevant cases, yes, is the correct actual answer to that. And no, we can't completely replace all of this with just AI. Of course we can't and won't, but I do very much like the data-driven analysis aspect of it. And to a degree that already exists, of course. And I'm citing such and such case, Your Honor, and it's this. But like, what if you could say, and here are 8,000 cases that are within 1% of the exact circumstances of what this thing is, and then here's the bell curve of what all of the penalties are and so on. And you still have to do the convince people beyond a shadow of a doubt, and you have to, or reasonable doubt, and you have to defend, or you have to try and prosecute. All of that still exists. But then once you get to the jury says, yeah, no, he did it. Okay. And also, this is what the bell curve of outcomes looks like. Instead of, I don't know, let's give him 20 years because we don't like the cut of his jib. He wasn't wearing a tie, and we don't like that. What if not that? What if it was actually based on the circumstances of the person and the thing that they did? Hunter.
I think I trust the judge on average far more than I trust the jury. I'm way more skeptical about these random folks that are up here on the jury that I have no idea of their background, and the concept that they are somehow my peers.
Just 12 angry men up there.
I have no, like, so if we're going to go down the route, like, hey, I want to take away some of the judge's powers and give them to the AI.
But we're not, or at least in my idealized scenario, we're not. We're empowering the judge with, here's a bunch of relevant, if you're going to do the sentencing, well, here's a bunch of examples of what a sentence of this kind of crime looks like.
Okay, and that's it? No more AI in the courtroom? That's where we draw the line?
We've gotten way off topic. No, honestly, not that off topic of what this learned hand sort of experience is supposed to be here. I don't know, man.
Well, here's
the
where it
judicial
goes.
system is not just a judge. There's so much other stuff under there.
Right. I think as humanity, we got to figure out where are we going to allow the AI and where are we not going to allow the AI. And the answer could be everywhere, but I don't think the answer should be everywhere. I don't think that's the right answer. And where the crime stuff inevitably goes to the pre-crime stuff. We put cameras everywhere, and we watch everything, and we predict that you do the crime before you do the crime, which then gets sentenced before you even did the crime. And we're certainly getting closer to that, as now, I mean, many cities have cameras. Some cities are famous for all of their cameras, and they're being retrofitted and equipped with large language models and vector embedding so that they can start to understand the world. And you can say, find a suspicious-looking man with mustache. And zing, 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 zing. There they are. But where's Waldo?
And then also what makes something suspicious-looking, and then you have to worry about the bias built into the models and so on.
But it's video. It found them. I'm looking at the video, Daniel.
And then you need the person to interpret it. So regarding the judicial system thing, I think you've got to have the people involved at some point, even if you point them toward evidence. Regarding cameras, though, London, or I guess the UK in general, sort of famously has a
Many.
gazillion cameras, and there just aren't enough people to look over it. The article that you're talking about, though, is more of a China literal actual surveillance state type stuff.
Well,
but
their
it's
new
not going
thing
to be too long.
It's now theirs is now equipped where they have a ChatGPT like interface to query this monstrous network of cameras.
We don't have enough people to review all the footage, but could you find us so this is the like good example of like, find someone lingering on, let's say, the wrong side of the railing on a bridge.
Right.
And the sort of implications thereof. And like, well, if you can find that, especially as it's starting to happen, that could bring a response in a outcomes driven positive sort of way, to be as vague about that as possible. Then you could also say like, yeah, find me suspicious person in mustache, or find me person with knife or whatever. I think there's actually a US based article that we talked about not terribly long ago, where there was a camera system that identified someone as like a threat at a school, and they just had like their phone or whatever. There will be false positives for this. There also are false positives from people reviewing things. And yeah, right. Is this a net good of it can review 100 times as much stuff, but you end up with 10 times as many false positives? Maybe. We come up with this problem in our work on a day-to-day basis, and there is no correct answer to this. It really comes down to some product manager somewhere saying, we weight this twice as much as this, or whatever, and here's our thresholds before we deploy the software.
Yeah. Again, given we're going to have these security systems around our cities, and most cities have them to some degree. I know the city that I'm in, well, I'm on the beach, but the main city behind me, they have a fairly large camera network, and it was controversial because a third party paid for it, but then they also get the footage, which they're, of course, using for training. But they paid the city to install.
Flock?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, so flock cameras are, I think, the big hot button surveillance sort of thing in the US right now for exactly the reason, well, among other ones, the reason that you mentioned, which is like, it's not necessarily just state or city or police department or private, and there's a lot of sharing that citizens are not terribly happy of being able to just kind of go back and forth in that, surveillance state sort of direction. If you're going to have these things, and they are going to be shared, completely ignoring now the should that exist. If it will exist anyways, should people be able to query them in a natural language way? Should you be able to say,
sure,
hey, 86,000 hours of video, is there anywhere where you can see a car being broken into? I'd say yes. Like, it's exactly the sort of tooling that exists now, just easier. This is what natural language processing is about. My entire field is taking stuff that would be too much of a pain in the butt to go through by hand and making it faster or easier or more convenient or whatever. This is literally what it's for.
I wonder if how much of the problem with this, with surveillance technology and the natural evolution as it becomes more and more equipped with AI,
sure,
is the exclusivity of it. That only this small group of people have access to these powerful systems that are monitoring all of us. What if it was a public access system? You go to yourcity.gov and
it's paid for by your tax dollars.
Correct. I can go in there and I want to say, oh, you know what? Last week I left my backpack somewhere and I can't remember where. Find it for me.
Find my backpack.
Find my backpack.
Hey, you already know what I look like. Find all the video with me. Now find where I live. Like, yes, that kind of thing I think is a positive. And I like that interpretation of it.
That needs to happen.
It's the surveillance state and no one having any privacy and so on. That I'm not a private. I am an advocate for privacy in an abstract sense, not unfortunately enough to be terribly eloquent on the matter. But I do think you are going to be tracked and identified everywhere. Generally speaking, I would not be in favor of.
Yeah, I think there's in my mind, it needs to go two ways. Either A, all the data is public, including the access to the system. So anyone from the public can go and leverage this system. And there are probably all kinds of ideas for good where if this system exists and we have all this technology.
Thinking of bad ones, but yeah.
Well, sure. Yeah. That exists too, but
Stalking,
it
as
exists.
a minor example.
It exists now as well. Or number two, it's more like a thing where, yes, it's collecting the data, but no one is allowed to review any specific. You can't do a search for Daniel unless you have a court order that says, and a court record saying, oh, I want to find out, did Daniel drop his backpack here? Because right
So
now,
you're saying legal surveillance instead of illegal surveillance, which is part of the existing problem.
right. But I would go towards make it public. By default, it's public. I think
that's destined for a lot of trouble.
it's destined for trouble either way, but at least we can keep people honest. That's okay, there's this system everywhere.
Right, auditability. Same thing as with the lawyers and the judges and so on. If it is public, if it is something where you could say, hey, a person was identified as doing or about to do or whatever a crime and then got arrested. This is also why like body cam footage has been revolutionary, I think, in terms of like policing. If you could also say any CCTV that's pointed toward a public space should be publicly available, there's more of that ability to audit what has happened. And so it is less privacy, but there's more ability to not get lost should something happen to you. I don't mean like literally lost. I mean like meaningful evidence of a wrong has been done to me. You can see it on the camera. Like, yes, that is one of those good applications of it, but I do think that the ills, and I only thought specifically of like stalking. I'm sure there's quite a few others. Hey, get in the comments and tell us what you do with unfettered access to being able to track anybody anywhere at all times.
Again, the technology already provides for the unfettered access. You're just limited by your resources. You can only buy so many drones to fly up there and circle around and monitor someone, but you can do all of that legally now. So given we're doing it, given the government's doing it anyways, my position is that that data should be freely accessible.
If it's going to happen anyways, we might as well also have access to it.
Yes.
It is defeatist, but I do agree with you.
Yeah, and by the way, maybe then and only then as a society we decide actually we value our privacy in a way that we just didn't realize before, partially because it's been obscured from us, the degree to which it's been encroached upon. There are benefits to it geez, how many systems do I log my random AI agents into, including here's my bank account, here's this? I don't care because there's so much good. But at least I get to make that decision. And right now we're not making that decision.
I'm reminded of an article that came out just a few days ago, which means it's already been being used for a while, of course. It was a research organization, I don't even remember where, but basically they said using Wi-Fi signals, you can
see through walls.
You can identify people. Yes. You can see through walls.
You can download it on GitHub.
And it doesn't have to be your Wi-Fi. It can be the neighbors over there. As long as somebody broke into it or had access to it. Public spaces have a lot of free Wi-Fi.
It's really cool. It's like it's an app that you can run, and it does a 3D visualization of your space, so you can see individuals through walls. If you wonder, is someone coming up my hallway? Are there other people in the other room?
And it makes sense, right? It's radio waves, and those bounce off and come back. Otherwise, the Wi-Fi literally wouldn't work. It has to have the signal come back. You're just interpreting it instead of what was the data sent back from someone's phone. It's what was the obscured space by bones and meat and hair and whatever in that space. If you can track anyone through all of this stuff anyways, and you can, and we should absolutely assume that both ne'er-do-wells and perfectly legal applications of it are already happening. Does that kind of lead more into it does already exist, we cannot put Pandora back in the box, we might as well open it all the way and give everyone access to it? It feels less unfair.
Yeah.
But it also does say, but the box isn't all the way open. It's only most of the way open. And it's worse to be all the way open. And I think there is a compelling argument for that. But also, it's enough open by the sort of people that aren't going to be able to be audited that is it a net better society if it's completely, let's just blast the doors open and everyone's tracked everywhere at all times, unless there's nothing, no Wi-Fi, no radio, no any signal within 700 feet of you.
Well,
Otherwise, you're just SOL.
That's what I'm thinking. You know, if you just have a couple of photographs of a room, you can build a compelling 3D reconstruction of it that you can walk around. You can walk around it in VR.
Yeah.
And if I just have
I've tried
a couple
putting that kind of thing together, it's very cool.
some Gaussian splatting.
From the let's have some fun with it perspective, it's a very cool technology. From I got 2 pictures of the person that I'm stalking, and now I know their space and I can identify where they are and so on. That's less great.
You've got 2 pictures of the person you're stalking. You can very easily build a 3D model of them that you can then put them into any scenario, including...
And make compelling video that looks just like them, or images, or whatever.
Sure. Or now I can use the Wi-Fi signals that are the radio waves that are going through their house, which are creating small interruptions to figure out where they are in their house. And now I can watch a reconstruction that's going to be fairly crude today, but it's reasonable to assume that it's going to get to something that is... Hollywood level, where I'm watching them inside their house in real time, and the next version where the vibrations of their voice is somehow also being tracked through the small perturbations of the radio signals, and I'm getting... So maybe privacy already is dead, and like that's just the thing, just like
it's
copyright's
just unevenly distributed.
Yeah,
right?
It's dead. It's dead. So
I'm sad.
But you get your ChatGPT subscription, and soon you can go find your backpack. This is the wonderful reality that we are creating. You'll never lose your backpack again.
You'll never lose your backpack again, and also everyone knows where your backpack is. Oh boy. Well, to end things on a really positive note like that, I hope that you've all enjoyed listening to this very special episode of They Might Be Self-Aware, brought to you by The Blur. I'm Daniel Bishop. That over there is Hunter Powers, and we would love to see you, or I guess we don't see you. We'd love you to see us.
Technically, we can see them with the Wi-Fi signals and our Gaussian splats.
We'd love to see you later and have you listen to us later. You're already watching and or listening to us on some sort of platform. If you are, and you are, great. Please keep doing that. If you're subscribed, awesome. If you're not, I mean, I'd love it. Gary'd love it if you were to leave some comments. I read them too. He's paid to answer them, but I also read them. The point is, this has been a real fun, upbeat one, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one and the next ones after that, right next time, here on...
They might be self-aware.